All right, my friends, if you're somebody that enjoys learning about tent design and all the inner workings of bringing a tent to market, you're in the right place because today I have Jigang Wang and Sean from the Free Spirit Tents as well as Pretents to talk about tent design. And it's possible that you've never heard of the Free Spirit Tents before or Pretents because they're not a super popular brand in the United States. But in Asia, China specifically, where the Free Spirit Tents and Pretents are located, very popular. But we're going to talk about how they're kind of making their way into the US market and such. So I'm excited to talk about tents today. My favorite category of backpacking and camping gear. So, Chikong, Sean, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Devin, for having us.
And I should mention that Sean works with Qigong, more specifically helping translate this conversation and the discussion we're having. Let's first dig into maybe just a little bit of the history of the Free Spirit Tents and Pretents. Like, where did the brand start? Like, what does the name mean? What's the origin of the Free Spirit Tents?
首先，自由之魂这个品牌来自于中国的攀登者，
So
因为
Jigang mentioned that the name of TFS Tents in China is called the Free Spirit, and it was originated by two climbers. They were one of the most famous and the most pioneer alpine climbers in China back about 15 years ago, and one of them called Dongdong Yan and another called Pan Zhou. And they climbed the Siguliang Mountains at 15 years ago, which is the highest peak in that area. No one had ever climbed it, but they climbed at the Alpine Climber Way. And Jigang and many of the outdoors back that time in China was inspired by them. And Jigang decided to have his brand named after their teams, the TFS Tents, the Free Spirit.
I think it's neat to have history like that, especially really specific history that in a way probably promotes like the design that you want to have like as part of your brand and the performance of it. How does your tent design like emulate being able to provide a high quality experience in those conditions? Is that like an inspiration to the design, or is it just part of the name? Does that make sense?
首先，我觉得刚才那个话题我们还没有完全说完嘛。
Jigang wants to introduce himself a little bit more, then answer your question. Jigang just mentioned that he started as a tent manufacturer for the biggest Korean company back in 1993, and he was a apprentice at that time, and he works for that factory for 7 years, and then he got promoted to designer at 2000. And after he got promoted as a designer, he had the chance to in touch with many US brands like the North Face, Columbia, and also other brands in Europe like Halliburton, etc. And he also in touch with some people that's designing with those tents and those brands. And he got many feedbacks from those brands that how to improve the tents and what he can improve. So he decided, based on those feedback, he decided to create his own brand. And there's another very important reason that he wanted to start his own company was because that back at the 2000s, Made in China was not a good name. Like people think things made in China are low quality and low pricing without any craftsmanship and designs. He wants to change this image for tents in the made in China industry.
Okay, I want to ask one more question, Qigong, about you and how you like to spend your time outside and maybe how that influences your your tent designs as well. And then I want to talk about just the designs and the quality in general, and kind of bring what you talked about of the made in China idea, because I think that's an important discussion to have. But how do you like to play outside? Like, do you backpack? Are you doing a lot of camping, mountaineering? What's your primary time spent outside?
OK，我是2000年开
He
始
himself is a outdoor enthusiastic, and he do a lot of campings in the most beautiful area in China, like the western side of Sichuan. There's a lot of mountains. It's near Tibet. It's gorgeous there. And he also did a lot of campings in camping and backpacking trips in Yunnan, near Vietnam, like on the border of China. That's also one of the most beautiful places in China. And his like camping trip focus a lot on the aesthetic part to view beautiful like scenics and beautiful places rather than hardcore camping, hardcore backpacking or alpine climbing. But he spent at least 3 months a year on the mountains to be with the nature. And he also do skis and bikings and the soccer himself, like when he got time. And he just joke that he was a person that always like very active as a child, always wanted to hear, and they are playing a lot of sports.
So Jigang, will you, if I come to China, will you take me to some beautiful places?
当然，我觉得
Of
中国
course,
有
of
一些山
course.
非常非常漂亮。
There's so many mountains that's really, really gorgeous, and you can't see in US.
Let's find a way to make it happen.
OK，
Of course.
Okay, so my follow-up question is just about the design, the quality, because we talked about, or you mentioned how important like the made in China idea is. How do you approach that in your design to show the quality and like more than just aesthetics, but also performance?
首先一开始创业的时候，
When he was a designer
我
first,
想安定
so when he started create his own brand, he was thinking to find some big factories to manufacture for him. So he reached out many factories and he gave all his requirements, but none of the factories agree to do that because they think that's not possible. So then he do think it's possible, and he also manufactured himself a little bit. Then he decided to find 3 other experts. So 4 of them started their own factories. And they start with 4, but now they have 40 people already. And how he makes sure the quality is high is by doing that. When they first start the company, they have weekly quality meeting. Even now, like every week, they have meetings, and he always emphasizes the quality. That is the first thing. And like for the first 3 to 4 years, they were exploring and like experiencing. So they are keep improving. Then after the first 3 4 years, they are very confident that all of their products having a very standard quality and very high qualities after they set up this like quality standard. And he also believed that as a designer, the only way you can have high quality as you want is to have your own factories, not by manufacturing by other factories. That's super important. And he also mentioned that to be in good quality, it's not just one part you're good. You're using good material, or you're using good pose, or you're using good steak. It's everything combined. So TFS Tents, they use very high quality, well established brands, pose, and they handpick their materials, and they import different other materials in US, in Europe, bring them in China and do their own experiment to make sure that the tent coming with high quality from every angle instead of just one part.
That's something that I have noticed, particularly like the Gemini as a TFS tent. There's so many little details of how like the corners are put together and the way that the rainfly fits over the vestibule area, and like extra layers to like stiffen the vent, like little details that I think you see from much like lower cost tents that are just kind of like skipping over things like that, and I don't see that in TFS, which I think is amazing. Like it really goes to show why attention to detail is so important.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Jigang, where does Pretense as a brand fall into the mix with TFS? Because they're separate companies, but my understanding is they're both within your ownership or wheelhouse. And how is TFS different from Pretense? What's the approach to the product design that way? Because the way I see it is TFS has more of like the larger tents, and Pretense is maybe more of the backpacking, lightweight focused product. Is that right?
是这样的，就是因为我是一个设计师，其实
So
我
first, to
有
answer your question, Devin, no, Pretense is not just for backpackings and it's not just for lightweight. We can we can think about it like this. So Jigang is a very creative designer and he always have different thoughts in his mind. So he always want to create new designs for the tents. So he created a lot of different categories under TFS tents. There are at least 30 tents under TFS tents that are using matured structure back in 2000 and 2010. Those structures are well known in Europe and in US. And he, based on those well-known mature structure, created his own design in TFS tents. But at 2016, there was one guy called Tara that mentioned he think that TFS Tents has super high quality, and but at that time TFS Tents is only selling in China. He think that TFS Tents should start selling in other countries, especially like Japan and Korea. But TFS Tents has so many categories. You made too much designs. It's not easy to simplify the brand. And
Okay.
so you should create a new brand. That's one of the reasons Jigang created the new brand to simplify the brandings and the designs. But another reason is that the pretense, what Jigang wants is to have pretense lead the trend, meaning that he's being even more creative on the designs, on the pretense, and he want to not just follow the trend or follow the matured structure. He wants to create a new trend and a new structure on the pretense side.
Okay.
It's just happen to have the more lightweighted and more leaning into backpacking.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that leads me into asking about maybe moving into the U.S. market. I know that we a few weeks ago, a month or so ago, had a meeting where I got to see some prototypes of some tents that are kind of more being designed for the U.S. market. So the first part of my question is like, what's different about the U.S. market for tent design that is not already available in the TFS designs, and what's the goal in bringing TFS and Pretense to the U.S. market? Like, what can customers look for?
首先我先讲我们为什么要到美国市场来，就是我在很早之前就知道了 North
He
Face。
knows a lot of US brands like the North Face and recently Patagonia, and he personally owns many of the US brands. And He also think that a brand should not just focus on a local area, it should focus on the world. It should mix the all different cultures, all different worlds into one concept. And another reason that he tries to go to US was or any other foreign countries was because he want other people from other countries know the scenic of China. There's many beautiful places in China. Like when he do the Instagram postings, he's not just posting the products, he's posting all the different beautiful mountains and all the beautiful natures and the different landscapes in China as well. He wants that everyone in the world to know that China is a beautiful place, and for outdoor explorers, not just US and China, but everywhere in the US, for outdoor explorers, you should go to everywhere, not just focusing on certain area. That's one of the reasons. And what Jigang wants is by bringing into the product to have the customers know the product first and know that the product is from China and follow them and know that their products has a lot of displays in all over the world and they are all beautiful place to encourage all the followers to go to the world and travels and explore the world's nature's beauties. And in terms of the product itself, for the prototype you just saw, it's using a matured structure which has a central stand, but it's bringing new experience by having both externals and internal side of the tents, like inner tents and outer tents, and the different ventilation systems to better fit the different markets. And also for the new prototype, it makes it higher and taller to fit the US market because in general, the size is a little bit bigger. That's stronger. So that's another reasons and some details changed for the market.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I wanted just to kind of wrap things up here, maybe talk about where Mountain and Sea fits into this. Is my understanding right that the Mountain and Sea as a website is a US marketplace for various brands that maybe you wouldn't be able to find otherwise, like designers and such that, like Jigang or others that give a place for people like me here in the States or purchase those products. Is that right?
Yeah, so for Mountain Sea, by the way, I'm the co-founder of Mountain Sea, and we are a curated online store specializing in outdoor fields and more specializing in bringing well-established brands from Eastern Asia, for example, TFS Tents from China, and also other brands from South Korea and Japan. We ourselves, our co-founders, we all outdoor enthusiasts, and we focus on the aesthetic part of outdoor as well. So our slogan is outdoor aesthetics. We think going to the nature is not always like hardcore. It can bring together with comfortable and also design and aesthetics as well. That's also why one of our co-founders is a female, which is a designer, and she likes comfort outdoor as well. So, and we are also importer of many brands. For example, we are the exclusive importers for TFS Tents and the Pretents. We're helping bring in those brands, well-established, high-quality brands to US to have other customers have the experience of those products as well. And for, I would say, pretty much all of the brands that on our website, there's no other place in US you can buy it from. So that's where we are and what we're specialized for.
I'll leave like link and information about Mountain and Sea in the description here for this, so everybody should go check that out. But that's cool to understand a little bit more of with the purpose of that and such. But is there anything, Qigong, that you would like my audience or everybody watching like anything else to know about you, your experience, and TFS as a brand?
首先就是，我们是因为是
Yeah,
有
Jigang does have one last thing want to mention that so TFS Tents and the Pretents, they are the designer and they own the factories. And most important, most of the employees in the company, they are outdoor enthusiasts. They use their own products all the time and they focus user experience a lot. So the post-sale service are extremely good. It's very well in China. If you find anything that you dissatisfied with the products, they are always there to replace for you, to send a return for you. That's one important. And another thing is that they use those products all the time. For example, the prototype you just saw, we are focusing on the US market. Jigang personally used that prototype already this year for at least 10 times already before he productionized those products. So that's super important as a user itself, that by knowing where is the drawback is, where should be improved, then finalize the product. So he's super confident on the product itself and would encourage every one of Devon's audience to try it out, experience the quality and the products, and also experience the service if needed.
That goes to show just one more piece of like the quality of the brand. Like the physical product is important and having that quality aspect there, but the fact that it's being field tested the way that it is and all of that experience is coming into the brand as a whole versus like what comes out of China a lot is a bunch of white label low cost stuff that maybe doesn't get that kind of testing, and that's very cool to see that is happening.
Thank you.
Well, Jigang, Sean, thank you for spending some time with me today and for sharing more kind of behind the scenes of the Free Spirit Tents and Pretents and your history. I think that's amazing. It adds so much value, I think, to what you're doing, and like I want to share more and experience more TFS products. And yeah, I guess all I'm saying is thank you. Like it's been great to spend this time with you, and I've got links for everything down in the description. But appreciate you sharing your story, history, and being here.
Thank you very much, Devon, to having us too. We really appreciate it.
非常感谢这个
Thank you
David。
very much, Devon. And Jigang mentioned that he really wants to have the opportunity to bring you in China to explore the most beautiful mountains and most beautiful areas he mentioned, and also explore the factories as well. Like one thing we forgot to mention that Jigang is in his factory right now, so the background you see is his factory. And the first floor is more, this is only the first floor. It's more for the display purpose, and there are 4 more floors for the manufacturing and the storage.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, let's make that part 2 of this.
Devon 说，就是我们可以下次再讨论一下风景和 factory，就是工厂。我刚才给 Devon 说了一下，我们的后面是我们的工厂，然后我们也是一个5层楼的很大的工厂。
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Devon, and 王老师感谢。
Thank you very much.